Sham Sharadavam Nalalida Loko Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Samsarda Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mancha Kampasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Nirmajanado Shri Vigrahara Nityanana Shringaratanama Nirmajanado Joktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritva Tripti Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shirarikama Kavayara Param Madhurya Leela Guna Rupanamna Shirarikama Madhurya Leela Pratikshana Swa Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Pratikshana Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Rayali Vere Joktir Apekshaneya Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Rayali Vere Joktir Tatrati Daksha Bhakti-vallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaru Vrindam. Sakshadharitena Samasta Shashri Rutastatava Gataiva Sadavi Sakshadharitena Kintu Prabhuja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Nyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesa Shunavadi Pachatyadi Shatadine Nivishesha Shunyavari Patatare Sata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hariyaraya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namah Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaya Namo. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad-Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhupada Stuttara Sarasishya Maharaj His Divine Grace Abhacharvina Bhakti Viranta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siramani Patit Pavan Shri Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patitu Dhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sadguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrind Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrind Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Premanama Sankirtane Ek Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shriman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaura Hari Mavrana Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihad Nidanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopna Radha Kunsama Kun Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathur Dham Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavadvip Eka Chakra Dham Ki Jai Parama Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashanakari Shingare Bhagavan Ki Jai Sitaram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Ji Ki Jai Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Mathura Dharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanande Hari All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Praladaladaine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilathankanakalaya
Shilathankanakalaya
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha
Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisingha
Bahe Narsimho Hrudaye Narsimha
Vaye Nisingha Hrudaye Nisingha
Narasimha Madim Charanam Prapadye
Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapade
Tava Kara Kamalavari Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari
Avakara Kamala Vare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanabringa Keshavadrita Narirupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari
Jaya Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev
Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya 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 Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki Jai Jai Prahlad Maharaj की
भक्त परसर विघ्नाश न करी सिंहरि भगवान की जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे श्री वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियै केशवसुत विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः प्रिय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषी।
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 जे तुम्हारा शरण लोय तारा वंश पूर्ण होय।
जे तुम्हारा शरण लोय तारा वंश पूर्ण।
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करे करो तारे वृंदावन वासी।
मोराइया बिलास बिलास कुंजे दियो वास।
मोराइया बिलास कुंजे दियो वास।
नयने हरि वो सादा युगल रूपरासी।
अमिनायने देव सदा
जुगल रूपरासी। এই নিবেদন ধারা সাকিরানুগাতা কর। সেবা অধিকারা দিয়ে করো নিজ দাসী।
सबादे करो दिए करो निज दासी।
दासे को ये इजे न मोरा होय।
दीन कृष्ण दास को ये न मोरा।
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी।
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये न बासी।
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी।
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम Padaye Namaste.
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Tulsi Maharani Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Tagora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol
ये तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय।
जय। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की। O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower with the emissaries of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Majanam Bhavavada Nirvapanam Shri Akarvachan Vika Vikaranam Vidyaparu Jivanam Ananda Vimardhanam Pripadam Purnamitasasaram Sarvatam Manavaram Vimardevi Krishna Sanvirganam Nana Mahari Bhavani Sarasakti Tatra Pitaniyatam Smalena Kala Ekadishri Tarakita Vanmanati Durgari Krishnamina Nanarada Trinadati Sunichena Karovati Sarishna Amana Manarina Tikaniya Sarari Natanam Natanam Natsundari Darshanam Mahatam Karatu Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna ki Jai. Om Mahabharanaya Krishna Prem. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life at the period of birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it prays the rays of the benediction. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It includes the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. It is not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord and stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of all prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion, service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaja Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your Lord's feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name?
When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name?
O Govinda,
feeling your separation, I am considering the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if Sandhya me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
So there are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows.
The
blaspheme devotees who dedicate their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuant to the Vedic version. 5.
To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination.
6.
To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
8.
To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda.
9.
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
And 10.
To not have complete faith in chanting the holy name, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakal Patiramischa, Kripasindribhyevicha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Bhutri Smada Bhakti Namaste Saraswati Devi Kulabhajani Namaskar. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O pervading personality of Godhead.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction of the manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is he only who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of
the
Brahma,
original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations
As one is bewildered by the illusory
of water seen in
representations
fire or land seen in water.
of water, sin, of fire, of land, sin, of
Only
water.
because of him do the material universes,
It's only because of him do the material universe.
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature.
appear factual although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are
I
real.
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
who is
Krishna,
eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental
which
world,
is forever free from the illusory representations in the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the
I
material
meditate upon him because he is the absolute truth.
world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravota,
Dharma prajita kaitavutra,
paramo nirmatsranam satam,
paramo nirmasharanam
vedyam
satam,
vastavam atra vastu,
vedyam vastavam astravastu,
shivadam tapa trayon mulanam,
shivadam tapo trayamuranam,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamanukite,
Kim Vaparir Ishwaraha,
Vaparirishvara,
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra,
Sadyurudya Varijatitra,
Kriti Bihi Sususubhistakshana,
Prithvi Sushushuvistatyana,
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities to material motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Puran propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in their
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The truth is the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of
Such
all.
truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold
This beautiful
miseries.
Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity,
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva's maturity
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of
by this
knowledge,
culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror garitam phalam,
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam,
Sukhamukhar amrita drava sangitam,
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
Pibata Bhagavatam rasamarayam,
muhur ahorasika bhuvibhavakaha.
Mura hura sika bhuvibhavuka.
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Shrimad
the
Bhagavatam.
mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures.
The mature fruit, the desired tree, of the very
It
glorious,
emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
is emanated from the lips of Shishugariv Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shramvatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hidyantaksto Hi Abhadrani,
Vidyantastu hi abhadrani,
Vidunoti Suhit Satam.
Vidu noti surit satam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from very
or to
glory,
hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-Gita,
but to hear from it directly from the Bhagavad.
is itself righteous activity.
It is self-righteous
And
activity.
for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart, or
Lord
in
Krishna
everyone's
is
heart,
dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as a best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of
and
him.
purifies the devotee constantly engaged in hearing of him.
Nastapresu abhadresu
Nastapresha bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata se
bhagavati utamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloke
bhaktir bhavati naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavatir Nasti.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops the only transcendental
As
knowledge.
he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the
he
devotee,
becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Darajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Kamalobha
chita
dayascha
itaranavidam
Chetaitaranabhidan
Stitvam sattve prasidati.
Stitam sattve prasid.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes free from the modes of passion of ignorance.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
And as material lust is diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasana manas.
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga.
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam.
the Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangha Sajaya.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When all these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in the position of pure good.
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
Becomes enlivened by devotional service.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
And understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Granthi.
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Chiyante Shakshakam.
Shiyante Chasya Karmani
Chiyante Shakshakam.
Justa Eva Atmanisware.
Justa Evani Manishvari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga serves the hard knot of material affection
That's the Bhakti Yoga serves the heart of material affection.
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
And enables one to come at once to the stage of samsham samagrama.
understanding the supreme absolute truth, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
Understanding with the supreme absolute true personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
And therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text number 1. Translation, verse. Sri Sukha Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Pura Dharanayatma Yonir
Evam Puradhanam Yoni
Nastam Smritim Padyavarudya Tustat
Asam Shruti Prajavarudya Tusta
Tata Sasajedam Amoga Dristir
Tata Sasajedam Amoga Dristi
Yat Pratvya Buddhi.
Yata Prayapragyas Vasaya Buddhi.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The example cited herein of Sri Brahmaji is one of forgetfulness. Brahmaji is the incarnation of one of the mundane attributes of the Lord. Being the incarnation of the passion mode of material nature, he is empowered by the Lord to generate the beautiful material manifestation. Yet, due to his being one of the numerous living entities, he is apt to forget the art of his creative energy. This forgetfulness of the living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant ant, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virat Rupa of the Lord. This chance is available to the human form of life, and if a human being follows the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, then revival of his pure consciousness and counteraction of the tendency to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. As soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasaya Buddhi, as mentioned here and in the Bhagavad-Gita 241, follows at once. This ascertained knowledge of the living being leads to loving devotion to the Lord, which the living being requires. The kingdom of God is unlimited. Therefore, the number of the assisting hands of the Lord is also unlimited. the Bhagavad-Gita 13:14 asserts that the Lord has his hands, legs, eyes, and mouths in every nook and corner of his creation. This means that the expansions of differentiated parts and parcels, called jivas, or living entities, are assisting hands of the Lord. And all of them are meant for rendering a particular pattern of service to the Lord. The conditioned soul, even in the position of a Brahma, forgets this by the influence of illusory material energy generated out of false egoism. One can counteract such false egoism by invoking God consciousness. Liberation means getting out of the slumber of forgetfulness and becoming situated on the real loving service, situated in the real loving service of the Lord, as exemplified in the case of Brahma. The service of Brahma is the sample of service in liberation, distinguished from the so-called altruistic services full of mistakes and forgetfulness. Liberation is never inactive, but service without human mistakes. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So that's a very interesting point. Service without human mistakes. Well, human beings are making mistakes all the time. That's because they have forgotten Krishna. But if we want to be a liberated person who engages in service without human mistakes, it's possible. Now, people are making mistakes every day. Just like 10 days ago, some man said, "I want to talk to you." And he started talking about how he's very unhappy because he's going through a divorce. I said, "Well, sorry to hear that." I said, "So your wife filed the divorce papers against you?" He said, "No, I filed them." I said, "What? You filed them?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That's a mistake." He said, "A mistake? Why is that a mistake?" I said, "You have no business filing divorce papers against your wife." He said, "Well, man, she was like this and like that." I said, "That's doesn't have anything to do with the question. Your duty is to protect your wife and kids." I said, "You have kids?" He said, "Yeah, I have 2 kids." I said, "Your duty is to protect them. It's not to file divorce papers against them." "Oh, well, I'm very unhappy." I said, "Well, why are you unhappy?" "Well, my wife is, doing this and doing that." "Well, what do you expect?" I said, "You file a divorce paper against her. She has to protect herself." I said, "That's a stupid thing. I mean, you should immediately stop it." And he was shocked when I said that, So we see people make mistakes, and now he's actually regretting it because it's costing him a lot of money. See, so that's all. When you file divorce papers against your wife, you're not going to get out of it unless especially if she has money too. Without a long, protracted, and extremely expensive process. It's very expensive. You can end up spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 until the whole thing ends, right? So who makes the money? You don't make any money out of it. You just make the lawyers richer. That's all. So it's one of the dumbest things a man can do, right? Look at Jeff Bezos. He filed for a divorce against his wife, and this is what you call a no-fault divorce state. In other words, the person doesn't have to make any mistakes in order for someone else or their spouse to file a divorce. And there's only 7 states like that in the United States. All the others, you have to have a valid reason for a divorce. In this state, anybody for any reason And they don't have to say the reason. They just file for divorce. Right? And then you get this long, protracted, extremely expensive process where the lawyers get rich and you get poor. Right? So that's one of the dumbest things a man can do. Now, women will do that sometimes, and okay, that's whatever it is. But a man should never do it. So I told him, I said, that's the dumbest thing you did. Of course, it's hard for men to accept that they did something dumb, but that is definitely a mistake and violation of Dharma also. So here we see liberation is never in action. Well, who considers liberation to be in action? The Mayavadis. They think liberation means they completely reject everything, including Krishna, including Vaikuntha, Goloka, the cows, the Sarabi cows, the gopis, Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Mai, Vasudeva and Devaki, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole kit and caboodle. That's a saying in English. It means everything. So that type of renunciation is incomplete. It's basically false. Not false, but it's considered incomplete, falgu. And so why? Because it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If you reject everything, including Krishna, then that's not complete renunciation, because you started renouncing things that are useful in Krishna's service. So therefore it would be incomplete renunciation. Then Prabhupada explains here, the service of Brahma is the sample of service and liberation distinguished from the so-called altruistic services full of mistakes and forgetfulness. This is a very, very important point. What are these full of mistakes and forgetfulness? Well, and what does it mean by altruistic services? Well, altruistic services means you want to do things out of good nature and to help others. But, like, for example, you see these men or women on a corner, usually men, and they have this little sign written in a very sloppy way, and it says, Vietnam vet, God bless, anything helps. So, first of all, why does he say Vietnam vet? How do we know it's even true that he's a veteran of the Vietnam War? Well, maybe he is, maybe he's not. But it's to get your sympathy, because, he went to war to so-called protect the United States. Actually, the Vietnam War was a mistake. The United States did not try and win the war. They had won the war in World War II by completely destroying Germany and Japan. They won the war. They lost the war in North Korea because they were not determined to win it. And then they lost the war in Vietnam because the government was not determined to win it. So both of those wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War, they were political wars. They were not really serious about winning the war. I mean, the government wasn't. And it killed a lot of Americans, soldiers. So whenever the government is not determined to win a war, their motives are really unclear and usually draconian. They want to kill their own people, their own soldiers, by sending them to such a war where they don't use all the force that they have to win it. So the Vietnam War was a sad war because America lost the war. After winning World War II, because the government did not have the desire to actually win it. So therefore he's trying to get sympathy by saying Vietnam vet. Of course, if you come from India, you don't know any of these things, and you just feel sorry for seeing a poor person. So you give him $5 or $10. Well, that's a mistake, because if he takes that money and buys some liquor or meat, you get 1/6 of the sinful reaction. So if you really wanted to help that person, you wouldn't give them $5. You would give them some prasadam, offered to the deities in the temple. Or you can invite them to your house and give them prasadam. Or you could bring them to the temple and give them prasadam. But just giving them $5 is a mistake, and you'll suffer for that. Then, full of services. Altruistic means services meant to help others, out of your generosity, but without human mistakes. So these human mistakes are making decisions not based on Shastra, but just based on feelings. So feelings are the worst criterion on which to make or offer service or offer charity or whatever. Because just like this man that I told you about, he made a gigantic mistake by filing a divorce against his wife. And he did it because of his feelings, not because of any Shastric evidence. Right? Just like even yesterday we said, analogy is not proof. It may help when you're dealing with people who have no spiritual knowledge at all and don't believe in the Shastras. So you can give an analogy of something they know to understand something they don't know. But it's not proof. Proof is Shastra, or the Vedic literature. But even there you have to be careful. The verse for tomorrow, let's just read that. It says, the way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. So wait a minute. You're saying we have to rely on Vedic Shastric evidence, but this verse says that the way of presentation of the Vedic sounds, or the mantras, is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things, like the heavenly kingdoms. So then what does that mean? It means we can't depend on the Vedas? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that you should not depend on your personal understanding of the Vedas. It should depend on hearing the Vedas from bona fide devotees who explain things exactly as Krishna has explained them in Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, without any addition or subtraction of the message. Because all of us have feelings, F-E-E-L-I-N-G, right? So someone like Arjuna, he had feelings. So therefore he didn't want to fight. And he directly rejected Krishna's order. That's because of feelings for his family members, right? And all of us have these feelings. Just like this man, he had feelings. So he does the dumbest thing in the world and files a divorce against his wife, and it's against his kids also. See? So doing things because of feelings, even reading the Vedas with feelings that, I'm Indian, or I'm American, or I'm white, or I'm black, or this is my family, and I am loyal to my family. Blood is thicker than wine, as they say in English. Look that up. Blood is thicker than wine. See what that means. I'm pretty sure it means that your blood relationship is more important than anything else. Right?
The original one is blood is thicker than water.
Okay, whatever. What does that mean?
It's a medieval proverb in English that means familial bonds will always be stronger than the bonds
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. So, although Krishna and Arjuna have a relationship of friendship, Arjuna's blood relationship to his family, which is a feeling, right? It was more important than Krishna's order in the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. See? So in the same way, if we let these feelings, and these feelings are based on the body, it has nothing to do with the soul. If we make decisions based on our feelings about what the Shastra means, then we're going to make mistakes. See? So even though you're reading the Shastras, you're going to make a mistake. So that's why it should be heard from authorities, people who are sticking strictly to the parampara, Vaishnava parampara, and following all the rules and regulations themselves. I can wake up in the morning with a feeling that, I don't want to go to Mangala Aarti today, I'm going to sleep in. That's a feeling. It has nothing to do with the vow of initiation, right? The vow of initiation is, come hell or high tide, I'm going to do what I promised to do at initiation. So, in this purport, it says that there are two really big points. There are many points, but the two that I want to focus on. And one is, it says, as soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the vyavasaya buddhi, as mentioned here, and in the Bhagavad-Gita 2:41, follows at once. Now, what is this vyavasaya buddhi? This is probably one of the verses that Prabhupada lectured the most on. If you can look it up, and you'll see one lecture after another. There's many lectures on this one verse. Why is that? Because it encapsulates, this verse encapsulates the vow of initiation. And what is that vow? That I will follow certain rules and regulations. Certain things I should do, and certain things I should not do. So this is 241. It says, Vyavasatmaka buddhi ekaha kuranandana bahusaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. So this word vyavasaya is mentioned twice. Vyavasayatmika and vyavasayam, vasayinam. So what does it mean? Well, vyavasaya means resolute in Krishna consciousness. In other words, I'm going to keep my vows, come hell or high water. Right? Doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to stick to my vows that I made it at initiation. And vyavasayinam means who are not in Krishna consciousness. They've decided not to follow the vows. So vows are what keep you in Krishna consciousness, or the vows are broken and one chooses to walk away from Krishna consciousness. So this verse is important. And it says, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. This word resolute means you're firmly committed and determined to follow this path every day the rest of your life. Are resolute in purpose. Their purpose is to please Guru and Krishna. And their aim is one. My aim is one. Somehow or other, I'm only going to do things that are pleasing to Guru and Krishna. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. That means they can't focus on this oneness of purpose, that everything I do must be done in such a way that Guru and Krishna are pleased. So they become irresolute, not determined to follow strictly the vows that they made, and then what happens? Their intelligence is many branched. One day they want to become rich. Another day they want to increase sense gratification. Another day they want to reject everything and become a Buddhist. Or who knows, every day it's a different story. So that's called irresolute, and the intelligent. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called vyavasayatmika intelligence. So that means resolute in determination to follow strictly the principles of Krishna consciousness. And it's based on strong faith that one, by just becoming a devotee, one can attain the highest perfection of life. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22.62 states, Shada Sabde Vishwasakaya Surhidanishchaya, Krishna Bhaktir Kaila Sarvakarma Kritahai. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. Sublime means you might not be able to see it, but you know it exists. And therefore, you have unflinching trust in it. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to the family traditions, humanity, or nationality. So we've gone over this before, but we'll go over it one more time. It doesn't say obligations to family, it says obligations to family traditions. So what does that mean? It means, like, in my family, there was a tradition, I've said this before, every Sunday we had to have chicken. That was a tradition, right? And I'm sure there are traditions that you have to follow also, that's in your family, you know. And then I met this one man, I did a program in his home, he was a Rajput. So after the program was finished, he came up to me and spoke a little softly and said, "Excuse me, Prabhu," he said, "you know, I'm a Rajput, and whenever we do these type of ceremonies, we have to have a toast." Oh, I said, "You're going to toast some bread?" He said, No, I didn't mean toast bread. A toast. So I knew what he meant. I was just joking with him, you know. A toast means they're going to drink liquor, right? And he said, "I hope you don't mind." He said, I hope it's not offensive to you." I said, "Look, this is your house. You can do whatever you want, you know." So then he said, "Now we're going to have a toast," you know. And he brought out some wine or whiskey or something, you know. He poured some for the men, right? You have to have hair on your chest to have a toast, right? And they, you know, he made some kind of toast, he made a little speech, some phony nonsense, and then they drank the liquor. That was a family tradition, right? He's a Rajput, right? You have to have a toast, right? So this is something that you're not obligated to follow. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. So fruitive activities, that is activities for your own benefit. That's why it says fruitive. Fruit comes from the word fruit, right? But it is an implication that it's bad. By the way, fruitive is not a word in the English language. Fruit is, but fruitive is not. It's something Prabhupada coined himself. Right? So if you say fruitive activities, someone who knows English, most people don't know English, so they won't say anything. But someone who knows English, what do you mean by that? So you'd have to explain. What you mean, actually, is activities meant for selfish purposes, right? That's the understanding. So it has a negative connotation to it. Although fruit is not a negative word, right? You work for the fruits of your labor. You know, that's a positive thing. But fruitive has this, and like I said, it's not an English word. You can look it up. Look, see if you can find the word in the dictionary. Fruitive. By the way, this is the way words come into the English language. Someone, coins a phrase for something special, like Prabhupada did, because he didn't find a proper English word, so he made this word up. Is it there in the dictionary?
Yeah, it didn't come up
No, it comes up from, what do you call it? They call those unofficial dictionaries. What's it say?
It said, there's actually, there's no translation by anybody, but there is a company called Fruitive.
Okay, so it's not an English word.
No, there's not.
Did you want to say something? No. Yeah, it's not an English word, but it has a negative connotation in Krishna consciousness. It means working for selfish purposes, not working for the service of Krishna. You see? So if you say that, let's say you're in college and you write a paper and you start using the word fruitive, your English teacher would correct you and say, what do you mean by this word? It's not in the dictionary, right? But that doesn't mean it won't come into the dictionary in the future. That's the way words come in when they start being used in, normal speech, and eventually they'll add it to the dictionary. So anyway, fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. Okay, so this is Prabhupada's definition of the word fruitive. It's karmic reactions. They can be either good or bad, but both are bad. Both good karma and bad karma, Prabhupada says, is bad. Actually, let me see if I can tell you where that is. Both are actually bad, according to Krishna consciousness, because they keep you entangled in the mode of in birth and death. So 138, let's see what it says, again in the second chapter. Second chapter is considered the summary of the whole Bhagavad-Gita. So if you learn the second chapter really well, you know the whole Bhagavad-Gita. So it says, a man engaged in devotional service, this is second chapter, verse 50. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. So Prabhupada says, since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad-Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. So the whole thrust here is that good and bad are both bad, you see. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. So in the other places, Prabhupada says good and bad karma are both bad. I have to find, but here it's clearly makes it clear that karma, whether it's good or bad, both are negative. Because, why? It says, as such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. So, since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. So it means both are bad. Okay, so then Prabhupada continues. He says, fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. So that's his definition of what he means by the phrase fruitive activities. When one, and fruitive implies good and bad karma, and then later on it's clear that good and bad karma are both bad, right? Because they keep you in ignorance. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. Again, that's implying that good results are also bad, right? Why would he say he doesn't endeavor for good results in his activities? Well, that means he doesn't do pujas for material benefit. Doing a puja is a good act, right? But doing puja for positive results, for more sense gratification is actually a bad thing, even though the puja itself is supposed to be good. Okay? But when it's misused, just like a knife in and of itself is not good or bad. So a knife used to cut vegetables to please Krishna, make offering to Krishna, is good. But the same knife used to rob someone or stab someone is bad. But the knife itself is not good or bad, it's the way it's being used, right? So when a person decides to do puja for a material benefit, it's bad, even though doing puja is a good thing. See? So it all depends on what the motive is. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. And that's a big statement right there. Everything in the material world is based on duality, good and bad, gain and safety, gain and loss, fame and infamy, love and hate, rich and poor, happy and miserable. See, everything is based on duality in the material world. Just like there's this famous English poet named Coleridge. He wrote a poem. He said that in order to taste the nectar of cold wine, one must eat a hot chili first. In other words, first you make yourself suffer in order to feel the soothing effect of the cool wine or the cold wine. So that's all, you know, it sounds like, oh, what a great poet he is. But it's a nonsense statement. Why would you want to cause yourself to suffer in order to feel, you know, the cooling effect? It's just like Prabhupada talks about cool cigarettes. And I hope you never smoked before, but there's a brand of cigarette, I don't know if they still have it now, it's called Cools. Now, why is it cool? Because they add menthol to the tobacco. So when you inhale it, you have an immediate sensation of it cooling your throat. So now Prabhupada is brilliant. He said, how can something that's on fire cool you? Right? Because the cigarette is on fire, right? So how can it be? It's all Maya. It's Maya. It's not a fact. It's not going to cool you. That initial sensation of coolness because of the menthol is masking the fact that it's burning your throat, right? So this is all, you know, this is what the material world is, full of Maya, you know, full of all these tricks that in other words, it's as if you're going to be cooled by smoking this cigarette, you know. So, therefore, then Prabhupada says, the resolute purpose. Oh no, and then Prabhupada makes this fantastic statement. He says, the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This is something that we should have a poster for. Right? In other words, it should start with, when one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. There you go. Okay? We're going to have these posters all over the temple pretty soon. We have hundreds of them. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. So this is knowledge. That someone who says, Krishna, you are everything for me. I completely surrender unto you. Please, do whatever you want. You can protect me, you can kill me. That's all. It doesn't matter as long as it's you doing it. You know. So this is knowledge. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. Krishna, you are everything for me. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva, or Krishna, is the root of all manifested causes. And by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Wow, that's the next quote. That's the next quote. That whole paragraph. So, service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows: Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasada nakatir katopi, dayam strutvam stasya yasastristan yam Vande Gurur Sri Charanarvindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his, meaning spiritual master's, mercy and mercy 3 times a day, and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. So he's connecting sense gratification to fruitive activities, whether they're good or bad fruits, right? Because it's selfish. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Again, he's using this word that's not in the English language, but he defined it, where he says, fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. Okay, so I was going to discuss something else, but we're running short of time, so we'll do that tomorrow. But don't forget, you have a project to write down all the things that Krishna does that other people are not capable of doing. It differentiates Krishna, although they may do it on a very small level, like Asat Guru. On a very small, insignificant level, he drinks a little cobra venom to prove that he's the incarnation of Shiva, which is a bunch of nonsense, right? But Shiva drank a whole ocean. So when the day he can drink a whole ocean, then we'll accept him as Satguru. But for the time being, he's Asatguru. Okay, so are there any questions? You can see why Prabhupada gave so many lectures on this verse, because it explains the guru-disciple relationship, right? And shows how the disciple can be successful in life, and how also this disciple can potentially be unsuccessful in this lifetime. Okay, no questions? Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol. So work on this project.
The project, is it attributes or is it the activities of Krishna?
Anything, like for example, both. It's both. He, like, as far as activity, he is the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material worlds, and the expansion of the spiritual world. Okay, and on that's action. And then qualities, he has ekarasa. Whether he's appearing as a little child or mature or whatever, whether it's in the body of a tortoise or a boar, he has his full potency. That's called ekarasa. He's not diminished in potency when he appears as a baby, because as a baby he kicked the cart of the demon Sakatasura and killed him and destroyed the cart with his little baby toe. So you take some baby and say, okay, now you kick this cart, let's see what happens. Nothing will happen. He might even hurt his toe. But Krishna, with his little toe, he destroyed this big cart and this big demon. So it's called ekarasa. So that's a quality. And the other one is an act.